Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going into some really unsettling territory. We'll be sharing some real-life accounts that honestly might make you think twice about personal space, about safety. And what's really chilling is how often these threats, well, they don't come from strangers in the shadows. Sometimes they come from people we know, or people who seem totally harmless at first. The stories we're drawing from today, they're personal testimonies shared online. So you get this raw, firsthand feel. They're disturbing, yeah, but maybe surprisingly, they touch on things that happen more often than we'd like to think.
Exactly. And our goal here isn't just to, tell scary stories. We want to look deeper, see if there are patterns, understand the psychological hit these kinds of encounters deliver, and maybe ask some tough questions about trust and safety, just in our day-to-day lives. It's about really digging into what these experiences mean for all of us.
Okay, let's start with one we're calling the digital betrayal. This is about a 19-year-old college student. She was also doing makeup tutorials on YouTube, built up a small following, enough to actually support herself. She was careful, didn't use her real name, no landmarks in her videos. Smart, but, well, she's still got those creepy guys in the comments. You know how it is. So she gets into her first relationship in college, but it pretty quickly becomes clear they're just not compatible. He wasn't really engaged, seemed more interested in video games, kind of indifferent when she tried to talk about issues, so she ends it. She thought he'd be okay with it, given how things were, but he was apparently really hurt, which was surprising. Anyway, she blocked him. Everywhere. Phone, social media, the works. Even dropped a class they shared, just wanted a clean break.
And this is where you really see it, right? How that online presence, even a carefully managed one, becomes a vulnerability, especially after a breakup. An ex-partner's reaction can be so unpredictable. What started online suddenly spills over violently into real life. It just underscores how important digital safety is, not just from strangers, but maybe especially from people who know you well.
Right. So just a few weeks later, she's in a coffee shop, and this strange man, dark green jacket, comes up to her, just stares. She asks, can I help you? And he smiles this weird smile and says, "You're even prettier in real life." Claims he's a fan, but it felt wrong. She only had like 62,000 subscribers, and this Holder guy, definitely not the makeup tutorial demographic, recognizing her, I was just douse off. Then he reaches out, touches her arm, asks if she's a lonely little girl who needed some company. Ugh. Her reaction was instant. Splashed her coffee right in his face, ran to the ladies' room. Her friend saw the whole thing, said the guy waited outside the restroom until the staff basically made him leave.
That feeling, that immediate visceral dread when someone unknown recognizes you, invades your space like that. It's like a primal alarm goes off. Yeah. Especially when they say something so inappropriate, it just instantly shifts everything from normal to threatening.
And here's the absolute kicker. Weeks go by. A friend, who was still kind of in touch with the ex, overhears him bragging that he'd messaged one of those creepy commenters from her YouTube channel and gave him all her real-life info, address, everything. And the friend said he made it sound like he hadn't just done it with one guy, maybe multiple.
Wow. That's just a profound level of betrayal. Using her private information as a weapon purely out of spite. And the consequences were immediate and severe. She had to move apartments right in the middle of the semester. Think about that disruption, the trauma, the fear that must linger, and the fact she kept her YouTube channel secret after that. It just shows how easily a personal vendetta can escalate into something truly dangerous. It completely shatters your sense of safety.
Okay, wow. Let's shift gears to the next one, the unseen threat. This involves the narrator's Uncle Steve. He was around 60, mentally handicapped, described as having the mind of a 5-year-old, but everyone said he had a heart of gold. Very kind, childlike. His routine involved riding his bike around town, running little errands. Pretty harmless, seemed like. But then the family started getting suspicious. Uncle Steve would disappear for hours sometimes. Wouldn't answer his phone. The narrator's father got worried. So when the narrator was about 17, the dad asked them to follow Uncle Steve one afternoon, discreetly, What they saw was deeply unsettling. Uncle Steve rode his bike, normal route, then suddenly turned down an unfamiliar street, parked his bike in front of a house, looked around, and then climbed through a window into the house. The narrator just sat there, watching from the car, shocked, scared, didn't know what on earth to do.
And that conflict inside, trying to square the image of the kind, vulnerable uncle with this criminal act they just witnessed, that's cognitive dissonance kicking in hard. Our brains fight against information that shatters our fundamental beliefs about people we care about, right? Which tragically can sometimes mean danger signs get missed or rationalized away for too long. It really highlights the immense challenge for families in these situations.
Yeah. So the next morning, the narrator's father sits them down and reveals the truth. He'd actually searched Uncle Steve's room before, found a black box. Inside were things like strands of hair taken from a pillow, underwear, used tissues, all belonging to a 14-year-old girl, a girl who went to the narrator's high school. Uncle Steve had been breaking into her house repeatedly, stealing personal items. And it turned out this wasn't the first time something was wrong. The father admitted Uncle Steve had fixated on other young girls before. He'd even tried to kiss one in front of her parents, almost got assault charges pressed. The family had tried to manage him, but as the narrator said, you can only control someone like that so much. He was eventually institutionalized.
It's just deeply disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When someone perceived as completely innocent, harmless even, turns out to be capable of such predatory behavior, it completely disrupts your sense of trust. And it really underscores the incredible difficulty families face with complex mental health issues, especially when they manifest in dangerous ways. Institutionalization, while heartbreaking, sounds like it became absolutely necessary for everyone's safety.
Okay, let's move to the trash man secret. This one turns a totally mundane chore into something really creepy. It's from a 21-year-old guy, college student living at home. Their house has this super long driveway, so taking the trash cans down to the curb, especially late at night, was his job. He said he wasn't usually spooked by the dark or anything, but one night, like 2 a.m., he's struggling with this ridiculously heavy trash can cat litter, apparently, and it spills. As he's cleaning it up, he gets that weird feeling.
Yeah.
Being watched. He looks up, and his neighbor's second-floor bedroom light is on. The neighbor's like 60 years old, light on at 2 a.m. Weird. Then he sees the neighbor step away from the window. He'd definitely been watching. His heart just sank.
That feeling is so primal, isn't it? Being watched.
Yeah.
Even if there's no direct contact, it triggers this deep unease, a sense of vulnerability. It's a fundamental invasion of your private sphere, turning something totally ordinary, like taking out the trash, into something unsettling. It shows how even simple routines can become focal points for obsessive behavior.
Totally. And after that night, it just kept happening. Every single time he took out the trash, didn't matter if it was 2 in the afternoon and 2 in the morning, he'd look up and there was the neighbor watching. His parents just brushed it off. Oh, you're being paranoid. But he couldn't shake it. I mean, who goes out of their way to watch their neighbor take out garbage? It felt wrong. So he gets frustrated, decides to flip the script. One night, around 4 a.m., after he puts the trash out, he goes to his own bedroom window with binoculars and just watches the neighbor's house. He waits for like half an hour, almost gives up. Then he sees a neighbor leave his bedroom. A minute later, he realizes his own garbage cans are gone from the curb. A few minutes after that, he sees the old man carrying his empty garbage cans out of the neighbor's own house and putting them back on the curb. And it clicks. The regular garbage truck hadn't come. This neighbor was literally stealing their trash cans, taking them inside his house, presumably emptying them, and then putting the empty cans back.
That is bizarre. It's such an extreme and frankly irrational form of stalking, a really unique kind of privacy violation. It's not about physical threat in that moment, but it's this intense invasion into the most mundane, private details of life. It shows a really unsettling level of obsession. And the fact that the narrator then started driving his trash to the dump himself just to avoid this, that speaks volumes about the fear and just the sheer creepiness of it all, how much it affects your sense of security in your own space.
Unbelievable. Okay, next up, the small town creep. This story really highlights how social media and real-world proximity can combine in a terrifying way. This is from a 22-year-old woman. Lives in a small, close-knit American town. Actually lives right across the street from her parents. So there's this guy from her town, a few years older, went to the same high school. Everyone kind of knew him as the creep. Socially awkward, didn't have many friends. One day, he messages her on Facebook, asks if she's single. She ignores it at first. But he keeps messaging, saying he just wants to be friends. She felt kind of bad for him, He had a rough family life, no friends. So she eventually accepts his friend request. They chat casually, movies, local gossip, nothing major. Then comes the first really alarming moment. Weeks later, he sees her in Walmart, asks for a selfie. Okay, a bit weird, but maybe harmless. But then he posts it on Facebook, tags her, and adds a comment with the heart eye emoji saying she's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's an immediate red flag. That public declaration, especially from someone you barely know, combined with the creep reputation, it crosses a line. It's unsettling because it breaches those unspoken social boundaries. It feels invasive, almost predatory, even if it's just online. Blurs the lines uncomfortably.
Exactly. And then it escalates. He somehow gets her phone number from a mutual friend, Alexis, and starts texting her. She's getting really uneasy now, but still. That pity factor. She didn't block him right away. When she asked Alexis why she gave him the number, Alexis was super casual, like, oh, I thought it was okay. You guys have public pictures together now, referring to that Walmart selfie. The narrator realized how naive she'd been. But then it gets truly horrifying. He starts sending her pictures of her that he took without her knowing, like a picture of her car parked at a red light, a picture of her coming out of the dentist's office, just random pictures of her out and about in town. She thought about going to the police, but kind of hoped if she ignored him, he'd stop. The breaking point. He sends a picture of her playing Guitar Hero in her own living room with her sister. He had clearly zoomed in with his phone from across the street, looking right through her window. She said she literally dropped her phone and screamed. Immediately went across the street and told her dad everything.
And that just raises such a critical point about how online stalking bleeds into the physical world. The violation of your private space, your home. Your home is meant to be your sanctuary. When that's invaded, even just visually like that, the sense of vulnerability is overwhelming. It's terrifying. Thank goodness her father stepped in, but the damage to her sense of trust, her feeling of safety, that lasts.
Yeah, absolutely terrifying. Okay, next story is The Obsessive Descent. This one is really heartbreaking, about a brother's dark turn. The narrator describes their brother, 3 years younger, as always being a bit of a goofball. Kind of guy who got into scrapes, but always seemed to land on his feet, Come out without a scratch. They both went to the same engineering college, so the brother gets into his first really serious relationship, and it gets intense, fast. Talking marriage within wet, but then it crashes and burns just as quickly over something really petty, like arguing about a $12 McDonald's meal. The breakup just destroys him emotionally. The narrator heard him crying in his room for weeks, and then he starts spiraling, hanging out with a bad crowd, high school dropouts, people doing drugs. He eventually drops out of college too. The narrator's really concerned, tries talking to him, heart to hearts, but nothing seems to get through. So, driven by worry, maybe curiosity, they go into his room one day when he's supposedly at class. After looking around, they find this hidden folder on his computer, named after his ex-girlfriend. Inside, hundreds of pictures of her. Some were normal from when they dated. Some were clearly ripped from her Facebook. But others were taken at random locations, including pictures of her with her new boyfriend. Just chilling.
It's a stark illustration of that slippery slope, isn't it? From heartbreak to obsession. And how easily technology enables this kind of extreme behavior. Collecting photos might start innocently, maybe driven by sadness, but it can quickly warp into something really disturbing, really dangerous.
Yeah, and it got worse. There's another subfolder called Edited Pics, and in there, the brother had photoshopped his ex-girlfriend's head onto the bodies of adult film stars. The narrator said they looked fairly believable, and then, even weirder, more disturbing, pictures where he'd photoshopped his own head onto the body of a dog, sort of positioned as if it were watching his ex with other people. The narrator just felt sick. Utter revulsion.
Wow. That takes the obsession to a whole different level. It's delusional, really. It's not just invading privacy anymore. It's grotesquely violating her image, her identity, twisting it into some bizarre, disturbing fantasy. The fact that he eventually got kicked out of the house for drug use just speaks to how deep his spiral was. It's incredibly sad. You can feel the narrator's confusion, that lasting sadness over seeing someone they loved transform like that. It highlights how fragile things can be when someone's facing intense emotional pain.
So heavy. Okay, our final story for this deep dive is called The Message in a Bottle. And this one, it takes childhood innocence and just shatters it. This goes way back, 1983. The narrator was maybe 10 or 11 years old, on a family trip to Cape Cod. Only child, feeling bored, you know how kids get. One morning, walking on the beach, they spot it. A brown bottle, something inside. The pure excitement of finding an actual message in a bottle must have been huge. They managed to get it open. Inside, a letter from another kid named Robbie. Said he was bored too, looking for a pen pal. Asked simple questions. Age, what they looked like, boy or girl. The narrator's parents thought it was sweet, encouraged them to write back, and so began this innocent summer pen pal relationship. They shared secrets, wrote about bike tricks, favorite candy. For the narrator, it was great. Felt less lonely, having this friend even far away.
And right there, you see the setup, those subtle red flags that a child just wanting a friend would totally miss. But looking back as an adult, the initial normalcy is the hook, isn't it? It plays on that universal childhood desire for connection. Makes the manipulation so much more insidious.
Exactly. Because as summer ended, school started, the letters started to change. Robbie's questions got stranger and stranger, asking about the narrator's body, what kind of swimsuits they wore. He got more intense when the replies slowed down, started telling weird stories about older boys doing upsetting things to him, asking what the narrator thought about it. Said he thought about the narrator a lot. Imagine playing together. It started to creep the narrator out, even if they couldn't quite put their finger on why at that age. Then came the last letter. the one that changed everything. The handwriting was totally different, not a kid's messy writing anymore. It was this tight, neat cursive. The tone was angry, mean, accusing the narrator of ditching him. And then the really chilling part, he suggested, since writing wasn't working, maybe they should meet up soon at the pier in the narrator's own city. Years later, the narrator's parents finally told them the whole story. When they found that last letter back then, they didn't hesitate. Called the police immediately, gave them Robbie's return address. The police investigated and discovered Robbie wasn't a kid at all. He was a much older man. And he'd been doing this with dozens and dozens of kids. His room, walls plastered with letters from children. His method was to write the initial messages with his left hand to make it look like a kid's writing, put them in bottles, and leave them on popular beaches, just preying on lonely kids.
That is just calculated evil, exploiting a child's fundamental need for friendship, for connection, and twisting it into this grooming tactic. It's horrifying. And the lasting impact, the adult narrator still checking parked cars, always wondering if he was ever watched back then, followed.
Yeah.
It's a chilling testament to how deep that trauma goes, how it can fundamentally shatter your sense of safety, maybe forever.
Okay, wow. That was a lot. We've just gone through 6 incredibly disturbing stories, each one different, but let's try and unpack this. Were there common threads you noticed, patterns across these accounts? It really seems like there are. The gradual escalation seems key in many of them, and the role of technology is huge, isn't it? YouTube, Facebook, Photoshop, cell phones, used as tools for stalking, and just the violation of boundaries, digital, physical, emotional. It comes up again and again.
Definitely. And if we zoom out a bit, these stories really show the whole spectrum of stalking, right? You've got revenge from an ex, like the first story. You have what seems like severe mental illness, maybe with Uncle Steve or the brother, and then clear predatory intent, like the message in the bottle case. What really strikes me is the insidious nature of obsession itself, how it can just grow and fester, and also how isolated the victims often feel. Doubting themselves, or worse, being told they're paranoid, like the guy with the trash cans. That just adds another layer of trauma.
That's a really good point. And it also felt like the stalkers often exploited something, didn't they? Like an existing vulnerability or even just basic kindness. Pity for the small town guy, the brother's heartbreak, Uncle Steve's appearance of innocence, the pen pal playing on loneliness. It's like an open door was sometimes twisted into an entry point.
Absolutely. Which I think raises a really critical question for everyone listening. It's about the importance, the absolute importance of trusting your gut, your instincts. When something feels off, even if you can't explain why, even if others dismiss it, that feeling of being unsafe, that's a valid alarm bell. These stories really hammer home that we need to take those feelings seriously and act on them to protect ourselves.
Yeah, this has been a really intense deep dive, definitely heavy, but it shines a light on a disturbing reality, doesn't it? These aren't just freak occurrences. They show real dark patterns in human behavior that cause profound harm, and often, from people you'd least expect.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. In today's world, our information is everywhere. Digital lines are so blurred. How vigilant do we actually need to be? Not just about strangers, but maybe even people in our own circles, our communities, people who might be hiding these unseen obsessions. What does it really take to feel truly safe when your private life, your private moments, can potentially be invaded or exposed without you even knowing? It's something unsettling to think about long after we finish talking.
Definitely something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty unsettling but hopefully insightful deep dive. We hope these stories and maybe some of the lessons pulled from them resonate with you. And hey, if you found this valuable or just compelling, please do like, share, and subscribe to Horror Docx for more explorations into these kinds of topics, the fascinating, sometimes terrifying truths about the human condition. Until next time, please stay safe and keep thinking deeply.